I'm always a little bit wary about casting a game on this match, but this one definitely caught my eye. Some of the best going to be playing today, even wearing a little gold medal right there. Beautifully done. Today we're going to be taking a look at All That Glitters, a match that was recently played by some very high-level players on probably one of the most common maps, tied for probably most common map with Supreme Misfits. It's All That Glitters, and today, spawning as the blue Cortex Commander, it's none other than Delphi. Delphi going to be showing us exactly what they've got here. Spawning as a Cortex Commander on the front lines in the canyon position. It's about as tricky a position as it gets. We've got loads of metal around here, which is handily highlighted for the reclaim as well. But Delphi, yeah, spawning in a position where, well, to put it lightly, certainly going to have an opportunity to show exactly what they've got. 45 open skill, silver chevrons. I'm expecting a lot here from our blue commander. Spawning on the other side of the map, spawning as the red team leader, spawning also as a Cortex commander, it's none other than Gof. So Gof going to be showing us what he's got. It's Wa versus Hello, the Wa clan versus the Hello clan, leading the charge here between these two different teams. Should be good stuff right here. Not spawning in the canyon lane, but spawning one over from the canyon lane. It'll be Bit PK, the hot pink commander here for the red team, going to be contesting the canyon up against that blue team leader. We do have a powerhouse in the tech position here, though. It's KZ clocking in at 34 open skill and going to be showing us probably a tech build, I imagine here. It's going to be a different. It's going to be dependent on what exactly the maroon commander goes for here. Whether the maroon commander decides to tech or whether the yellow commander decides to tech. Either one of these, of course, in a good position to do so, protected by their frontliners here. The blue team's second in command here, Tank Destroyer, going to be spawning on the front lines. So going to be showing us exactly what he's got. He's playing as vehicles, Armada vehicles, so we're probably going to see. Well, certainly we've got quite a load of Janices queued up right now, but we're going to see some of those good old-fashioned Armada tanks rolling out and into the front lines. Good stuff. Good stuff all around. Already we've got some fighters in the air here. Sorry, just adjusting my sound settings. There we go. Sounds nice on mine. Shouldn't have changed anything for you, but I can adjust things nicely over here. Let me know. Had a bit of a weird technical snafu today, so I hope that I got everything back to normal. Audio settings might be a little tweaked here and there. You're going to have to adjust things on your own. I do apologize for that, but it is what it is. That's showbiz, baby. Gof going for a fairly greedy build here, actually. Going for the construction turret this early, it does mean the commander can walk, and that's really important on this map because securing the midsection here, super, super important. But because of that, it does mean that we're very heavily energy stalled early on. Now, because we have the dual constructors rolling out, we don't need to keep one of these constructors in the back to help assist the lab. It does mean that we can expand these mexes quite quickly in the background. So it's nice, it's a little greedy, but it does allow you to get up and running a lot quicker. And if you can use that greed in order to actually take over big portions of the map, then of course it can pay off quite handsomely. Rover's looking to punish it, though. They're trying to find an opportunity path into the backline here. Trying to punish the brown and the red commander here, but being deflected quite nicely by a big ball of ticks being swarmed out right here by KZ. And, of course, the shuriken up in the air going to help paralyze a whole bunch of these as well. Very, very nicely done. All said and, well, considered here. Yeah, an excellent deflection. Air player for the blue team, going to be Mr. Dreamer 1. Going to be the orange commander Fight War for the red team here. Both going to be going up against each other. Already some clashes we've seen as those fighters are tangling up in each other's business. Scouting plane comes across over here, but it will be shot down by fighters. Quite nicely done. A little bit of a run by happening over on the left-hand side. Well, barring an APM stall here, we should be seeing a run by happening. Oh, Solar in position. Nice deacon right there from Solar. Beautifully done. Cleaning up those blitzes before they even managed to do any damage. At least the tan ones. We do have two more blitzes rolling across, though. These missile trucks, now without their tracking, having a harder time hitting these. But you know what? They do quite a lot of damage here. Yeah, not bad. Missile trucks have been in a strange way over the last couple of months. They've kind of gone up and down in popularity as different strategies have evolved and come to prominence and then fallen from grace. They've certainly been a hot topic, to say the very least. I think right now they certainly stand as a harassment tool. One thing that they lend that no other unit really can fill, aside from maybe the Rover, is a tremendous line of sight. Because they need full line of sight in order to fire their missile, it means that they have a massive amount of line of sight. And what that means, of course, is that they can fire away their missile from long range, but also it enables any artillery units, shell shockers, Wolverines, that sort of thing, to fire away at their full line of sight as well. Or their full attack range, rather. Nice expansions right here from everybody on the blue team, though. We are expanding quite nicely. We've got the constructors moving forward to get these metal extractors. We've got a few unclaimed ones here that I think were probably killed by the run-bys, but they are eventually going to come up to speed here. Everyone trying to expand. Irish Repo Man having a hard time keeping up with the pace. I wouldn't mind one of these constructors moving forward in parallel with this one, just to make sure that we're expanding as quickly as we possibly can. You can see Goph already showing us those pro-level moves here, capturing already most of these metal extractors here. I wouldn't even be surprised if we see him start to capture these metal extractors, maybe even handing them over to his teammate. But we do have those constructors available on the front as well for instance, building some static defense. If we wanted to go for, say, heavy laser towers or anything like that. It's a risky move to go for those against vehicles, because obviously vehicles can outrange your heavy laser towers. It means that they can be traded against very efficiently if they're just in the right tech tree. Usually, if you can avoid it, you want to. Not necessarily the most efficient trade. Whoa, BTPK in a little bit of trouble. Bitpack. Bitpick. Not sure exactly how it's pronounced, but either way. Shellshockers here laying down the hammer. Putting on the pressure right here for the blue commander, but as long as these units are trading out relatively efficiently, yeah, Delphi's gonna feel fine. The 3.2 is locked down and secured. We do have the geothermal coming up here eventually. We're going for some build power first and foremost. I mean, as long as this section is held, right? That's the big thing. As long as this section is held, and as long as too many of these units don't go down here, we do have some flamethrower turret and some regular dragon's teeth coming up right here, trying to keep this area nice and locked together. Aggravators firing away, but not really finding too much purchase here. The rocket bots, obviously, in the 2 versus 1 fight, going to be difficult to get any value with. Shellshockers barraging away over here as well, making things quite complicated. This is pulling from the front line of KZ, though. The KZ normally would be pushing over to the left-hand side, so Goph is now taking on quite a lot of pressure here in that direction as well. It means that these vehicles and these rocket bots, all of it could afford to push forward and be a little more aggressive over on the left-hand side. It's actually something, hold on, I'm going to pause the match actually and talk about this for a second. It's something that I've seen a lot, and I think a lot of newer players might stand to learn from this. So say, for instance, that KZ is sort of in between these two players, right? You have the red front over here, and you have the pink front over here. KZ is sort of dancing back and forth between these two fronts. When KZ's army moves to the right-hand side, it's a great opportunity for Wolvern and DNO to apply two-pronged pressure to the red commander, while similarly KZ is then forced over to the left-hand side. It relieves pressure from the blue commander, and then he can push forward into these vehicles, taking a really exceptional trade, eating up that metal, and then continuing the advance forward. Being really aware of your enemy's positioning and whether they're relieving or applying tension, it's a really critical point to maneuvering your army and making sure you're taking really efficient fights. Always fighting with your friends, going to result in much more efficient fights because there's just more units on the field. It's pretty easy math, but sometimes that's a little hard to see, so hopefully you don't mind the interruption. Somebody pointed out that when I do that, it sounds like a NFL play-by-play breakdown, which I thought was pretty funny. I love that comparison. Goph, oh, interesting. All right, Goph handed over the commander right here from KZ. That's a bit of a strange move, but I don't mind it. Goph's commander in a little bit of trouble here, maybe the reason why. Oh, we're gonna do a swap. Oh, we are gonna do a swap. Okay, that's pretty funny. So swapping commanders here because KZ's is so low, I guess to try and remove it from the front line while Goph is trying to hold against 2 different armies simultaneously. All right, nice D-gun right there on 2 of the medium tanks. A third one goes down right here. LLT trying desperately to catch this tank. It's a little stuck on the rocks. There we go. D-gun does take that tank down. Now it's just the Rocketeers we need to worry about. Obviously, Rocketeers quite good, though. Can't really push into this heavy laser tower, or the beamer turret for that matter. Nicely positioned here, actually. Essentially overlapping their fields of fire, but the beamer turret providing vision so that the heavy laser tower can fire. You can achieve similar effect by putting down a radar tower behind a heavy laser tower, which works quite nicely here in Dino's case. Pressure being applied over on the right-hand side is going to be difficult to punch through, though. Yeah. Delphi trying desperately to hold this line, but essentially the army has crumbled, and at this point there's not a lot you can do. Goes for a radar jammer, and I think that is the right decision. At the very least, removing some of the pressure from the shell shockers, sort of their passive ability to do damage. But obviously, as soon as they start dumbfiring, or if they ever find the location of this radar jammer, not too hard for them to blast it to smithereens. Dragon's Maw still available over here. It'll pop up, and the Janus turrets will make will make very short work of it. Down it goes, near instantaneously. Those Janus missiles, man, they are hard to deal with. Delphi in a rough way right here. As soon as these Janus start to connect with that commander, you really are put in a very tricky situation. Only takes about 5 volleys from the Janus in order to bring down a commander. Maybe 6, depending on the direction and the shape of the engagement, but either way. T2 Lab on the front line, my goodness, that's never going to happen. Not with these medium tanks blasting away at this constructor and the build power and all the rest of it here. I like the idea of going for the T2 Lab. It might be the difference maker, but just not going to work here. Oh, nice D-guns from Goph. Yeah, carving apart a bunch of that army right here. Janus getting some good connections, though. That commander immediately brought down to 43% is so risky. That commander goes up in smoke, and you really are left in a tricky situation. Oh, he doesn't realize, though. Tank Destroyer doesn't realize that commander is still lurking in the muck and the mire, and down goes the entire army of vehicles. My goodness. That was probably about 1,500 metal, maybe a little more worth of vehicles right there. All that going down is devastating. Go cloaked right now, so not firing at these units. Not the end of the world. Grunt will be more than enough to clean up just a couple of rovers. The red team trying to put together a T2 lab with a little bit of joint effort right here. KZ looking for an opportunity. We do have T2 already up and running in the backline here, so we're on T2 mexes. Those are slowly coming up and running, and we do have T2 up and running as well for the red commander. Basically, they're ready for the T2 step with everything except for the build power, which is a really unfortunate situation, because oftentimes it's one of the slowest areas. Really, you're kind of bottleneck. There's only so fast you can build the build power. You kind of have to start from zero no matter what you do. Sometimes if you're handed fusion reactors or for instance, I can imagine you're handed a couple of wind turbines, things like that. It can jumpstart your economy really nicely, but without the build power, there's really only so much you can do. Gauntlet set up in the backline over here. Gonna be quite nice for pushing the forces offline right now. Dino very aggressively marching forward, and I think that's probably fair. With enough vehicles on the front line, there's really not much you need to do here, and Dino is just taking advantage of this opportunity to walk the comm forward and try and get a decent D-gun in here and a decent lasering in there. Left-hand side looking quite nice. A little bit static, though, for my taste. Yeah, Neo going for a gauntlet here when really we could afford to be a little more aggressive. JG Beer X, the tank commander here, has quite a few units, a couple of tanks and some Janus as well, but I think enough pressure right there and you could probably break through, especially if Tank Destroyer and Commander, yeah, see, if they all work together, if they all push through this lane from multiple different angles, this army would be split up and the effectiveness would be diminished massively. Not the case right now, though. This Rattlesnake is sort of the final hope right here for Delphi. He's hoping that this thing can be efficient enough to actually save him here. Does it have a good angle? Not really. It's gonna have to be set to high arc mode. Makes it much less effective against, for instance, vehicles or really anything. Oh, Dino going for the 2-for-1. Dino going for the 2-for-1. He spies two commanders standing right next to each other. Oh no, he goes in for the self-destruct, the hug of death. Boom! Go the commanders. Beautiful play right there from the green commander. Spots an opportunity and jumps on top of it. Quick thinking right there from DNO, who manages to bring down both the red and yellow commanders on the front line, meaning the T2 lab is completely stalled out. There's about 600 or so metal that was tied up into that lab before those commanders went down. Now the best bet is just going to be to try and rebuild in the back line. What a beautiful play right there. Removing two commanders for the trade of one. Certainly going to be well worth it. Rattlesnake now up and running, by the way, and going to start firing away. More than enough to thwart the efforts right here of BT Bitpack. Bit PK? I don't know. The hot pink commander. Yeah, construction bots blasted apart by the Janus right here. They did manage to eat up at least one of those commander wreckages, but we still have two more behind it. I think it's about time we spam out some res bots here, Wolverine. Your teammate has just made the most beautiful sacrifice I think I've ever seen. Plus, we've got, you know, about a couple thousand more metal lying around in vehicles and whatnot. I think it's time we send the resbots forward, go into full-blown T2, maybe even on the front line here. Going for a T2 lab wouldn't be the worst idea. We already have tons of pork. Bombers coming out to try and ruin the day of that gauntlet at the very least. Oh, just barely, they do not manage to. 1% remaining on that gauntlet. Bomber's not quite done yet. There's nowhere near enough fighters out. Ooh. Yeah, Mr. Dreamer 1 with nowhere near enough fighters to contest all this. Those bombers are going to have tremendous effect. There we go. All the wind turbines going down right here of the blue commander. Do we have anti-air? I swear I saw a flak shot somewhere. Not sure exactly why. Wow. Beautiful bombing runs right there. My goodness. Wonderful, wonderful bombing runs right there from the orange commander. That hurts a lot. Now, the geothermal is almost upgraded to an A-geo. Well, actually, we're going for a prude, which is quite nice. Yeah, the geo being upgraded does spare the blue commander a little bit here. Certainly not super comfortable losing all those wind turbines, though. That's definitely a reasonable portion of your economy. Flak doing a great job of shooting down most of these bombers at this point. We have flak trucks that are being sent around. Eventually, they're dealt with, but my goodness, those bombers did go on a tear, especially for being T1 bombers in the T2 battlefield at this point. Not bad at all. Rattlesnake still dumbfiring into the distance. Have to be so careful about that. You can easily start shooting yourself in the foot if that happens. Reclaim never did occur. Yep, two whole commanders lying in the ruin. You know, if these commanders get eaten up right now by the red commander, it's not even a bad situation. Losing the T2 lab, losing the commander, all of it doesn't even matter if the red commander gets all this, and it looks like definitely he will. Gove saying, hey, if you're not going to take advantage of this massive influx of resources right here in the middle of the map, then I certainly will. T2 units now on the field coming out of the lab in the back line. That T2 transition is well underway right now from the red team. They've got Mauser on the field already as well. Only takes a couple of Ambassador to destroy this Rattlesnake, those rocket trucks. Very capable in terms of dealing with static defense. Essentially their primary directive, blasting down static defense before it really takes too much purchase. T2 vehicle labs coming up across the battlefield here as these T2 mexes come up and online. We've got more and more of them being built up here by quite a significant portion of this force. I'm realizing now that there's a lot of Armada on this front line. Cool to see. Very cool to see. Yeah, it's all Armada on the front line of the blue team. I'm just now seeing. Oh, was that a... Oh, Steam notifications. Oh, I see. Sorry about that if you can hear those. I'm not sure if those come through the recording or not. Trying to... Sorry, unprofessional commentator moment right there. I guess I need to mute Steam as well. Never had that issue before. Sorry to the half dozen of you that just checked your Steam if you can hear those notifications popping up. Gotcha. At least I remember to mute my Discord. I know those Discord pings are another one that catch people. Oh, nice deacons right there from Irish Repo Man. The Brown Commander managing to blast down 3 of those bull tanks. That's about 3,000 metal right down the drain right there from the Green Commander, the Dark Green Commander, who was playing on the front line over here. Was it? Oh no, it must have been the Light Green Commander. Either way, 3 tanks D-gun down, 3 bulls D-gun down. Definitely feels quite bad. T2 Lab immediately up and running right here for the Red Commander, of course, because that more bombers. No. Oh, there's those Ambassador though. Firing away whatever they can. Lovely stuff. Yeah, I mean, as soon as you reclaim about 2,500 metal worth of reclaim on the front lines, you're basically set to go directly into T2. Not to mention we already have the T2 mexes up and running, of course, and also fusion reactor had been built in the back of there as well. So really, the red player Gof here was perfectly fine transitioning into a T2 switch here. Despite losing the commander on the front, the blue team never took advantage of it, and I think it's going to be their critical downfall here. Commander straying too far forward here. Just a little bit of miss micro from the hot pink commander will result in that commander's death. Boom, and there it goes. Unfortunate situation right there for the hot pink commander. It means that this entire right-hand side is completely commanderless. What that screams to me is that maybe it's time to start thinking about pumping out a really rushed T3 unit. Getting one of those T3 units up and running and sending it across the map in an area where you know that the enemy team doesn't have a commander means essentially it's impervious to the D-gun. D-gun really being the only way to shut down, say, for instance, a really early Titan or even a couple of Razorbacks that managed to get through at this point. Hounds, Welders, all that kind of stuff, not the worst against Razorbacks, but certainly not going to be efficient enough to really make a difference. Sharpshooters, though, certainly quite powerful. We do have a few of those up and running right here from the Cyan Commander. It's going to be Smile. I don't parentheses Smile, or I don't bracket Smile Loudy. Sharpshooters, though, being shut down quite nicely. The ticks here, of course, draining the energy. It's actually more efficient for a tick to die to a sharpshooter shot. You lose more resources if a tick dies to a sharpshooter shot than the sharpshooter. What I mean is that the sharpshooter takes 1,000 energy per shot. The tick costing only 17 metal and 340 energy. It means it actually costs you more to fire the shot than to build a tick. The more you know. Lighting turrets systematically dismantling this front line here, which is always cool to see. Resbots cleaning up the front line here as well. Nicely done right there by Tank Destroyer, getting aware of the fact that, yeah, there's definitely money to be had by war profiteering off the wreckages of this front line here. Still quite static over on the left-hand side. I'd like to see a little more pressure applied over here. We are up to T2 for both of these players, but it is T2 vehicles versus T2 bots, and vehicles have been scaled quite a bit higher here. Of course, you have way more mexes to scale up on the left-hand side. Something to be aware of is that you can afford to be way more aggressive over there. You can trade out a lot more aggressively because, of course, you have access to a lot of those very, very high production metal extractors. What a static nightmare over here on the right-hand side. We do have, yeah, Smile Loudy, the Cyan Commander, just holding steady here. I don't know. I don't like this. I mean, we're really just draining energy out of these sharpshooters, which costs a lot more than you think. Really, the supreme cost, though, is that you don't have them ready in case a T3 unit shows up. We're so idle here. The blue team has an advantage, and I feel like they're throwing it away. Oh, I don't want to say that the blue team is giving up a massive advantage, but it really does look that way. Aphis is coming up here. Everybody kind of getting ready for the long game. I'm not sure if it's the right decision, though. I think the blue team might have been able to close this game out. Going for the T1 E converters here is pretty interesting. It's actually a strategy I really like. Because the butlers are so efficient at creating these T1 E converters, it makes a lot of sense to just go for those rather than going for any of the advanced E converters. Relative to the amount of damage that, say, for instance, bombers do or anything like that, going for the advanced E converters really doesn't make that much of a difference. in terms of survivability, right? It just means it's a lower surface area to target. But if bombers are in your backline, I'm gonna say you probably already got an issue to deal with. Oh, beautiful. Beautiful tick hit right there from the Juno missile. Manages to shut down hundreds of those from the yellow commander. Saving them up in a big ball now, trying to make sure that they don't run to their doom. More or less. Scout plane's flying overhead, but the sharpshooter's not moving forward. I think we need some radar jammer bots, and we need some radar bots, and we need to see the sharpshooters trading out. If they're just going to sit idly here, there's not really any reason to have them. There we go. Some aggression on the left-hand side, suddenly prompted out of the blue. The powder blue commander going to send forward a whole bunch of those lightning tanks, ramming them headfirst into a couple of static defenses over here, and I think eventually LLT, lightning turret, and all the rest of it will manage to deflect that attack, but not before breaking this front line here of JG Beer X. Losing those rocket spiders hurts, and these ambassadors doing a great job of blasting down a whole bunch of this, and as soon as they start firing at the static defense, actually they could just pop this advanced geo, and everything would go up in smoke. It would be scouted that. Yeah, we sure did. Parking your ambassadors over here, firing at the AGO, pop all that, clears everything out in the middle, and then you can push for the base right there. It's a very, very easy method of attack. Starlight's on the front line here. Mobile tachyon weapons. Quite powerful, quite dangerous. Capable of unreasonable sums of damage. Single burst. We're headed for a late game, certainly. Doesn't look like any of these commanders really have a solution to end this game anytime soon. Backline commanders mostly just interested in going for eco right here. You can see a bunch of scaling happening. APHIS is coming up and online, E-converters, all that good stuff. Another advanced fusion coming online for Tank Destroyer. Trying to set up a little bit of a forward base right here. This is another very powerful strategy. We saw this just a while ago with the, what was that video called? Pulsars encroaching or something like that. The static offense. It's an interesting idea, but it does work quite nicely, especially with pulsars, because they can effectively kill anything in the game all the way up to T3 in a single blast. It means that once you get them up and running, and if you can defend them, they're almost guaranteed to trade themselves out, and costing only 3,500 metal really isn't that much, all things considered, relative anyways to, for instance, things like T3 costs. Rattlesnake's finally firing away over here, having an opportunity. Left-hand side has crumbled, though. It's a big opportunity. We need to take advantage of it. Wahahaha! The advanced geo popped and blew everything sky high over here. You can tell by the lack of thing over here. Starlight's looking for every opportunity to pop that commander. There they go. A little bit shy on energy right now. Could definitely do with a fusion or two. But as soon as they have the energy to fire, down goes whatever their needle nose is pointed at. Left-hand side is crumbling. Big tick swarm shut down in the middle of the map there as well. Lightning tanks and bulls ravaging the base of the tank commander on the left-hand side. It's one of the most common ways we see these matches ended. One side or the other, one canyon lane or the other will typically fold. In this case, it's going to be the red team's canyon lane. Dying to the left means we need some sort of immediate response from the red team. Battle pause and battle started here. Loads of wind turbines way too close together. Oof. I think there's a LRPC firing at these. Yeah, there sure is. Basilica firing into the backline. Trying to take down those, or are we going for the anti-nuke? Oh, that's funny. Yeah, we may be trying to go for the anti-nuke here. Doesn't look like we have a nuclear option. Maybe we scouted that, yeah. Trying to blast it down a little bit inconspicuously. Take it down one shot at a time. Ooh, and there we go. Built around those E-converters meant that it popped almost immediately. Bombers pulled in order to shut down this LRPC. They will get it, but it comes at the steep cost of basically every bomber that was available there. Not to mention these fighters are falling out of the sky here as well. Not the end of the world, and we did clear up basically the entire, wow, my goodness. Yeah, the entire airwave right here. And there's still a couple bombers left over. Anti are going to be more than sufficient to deal with all that. Definitely tricky, though. Bulls ready to jump forward. Bulls versus pit bulls, and it'll be the bulls that win. Considerably more costly, though, at 950 metal versus the, I believe, 780 for a regular pit bull. There they go. Static defense melted away on the front line. As soon as one static defense starts to crumble, you suddenly see gaps and opportunities start to open up, and more starts to slip through. A resign vote is called here for the red team. Will they accept it? Do they have some sort of trick up their sleeve? The one weakness I see in the blue team right now is the fact that they're considerably faint on air power. Mr. Dreamer 1, maybe just a little unfamiliar with the air, the way that the air works and just the cadence of the way that you have to play air. Not properly scaled as far as the T2 transition goes, and it can come back to bite you. Those T2 fighters are so much more efficient than the T1. It's a difficult one to learn, certainly. It's fair to say. It's important to make that T2 transition because of how much better those T2 fighters are. Pulsar cleaving through the field of grunts running forward. A little bit of a waste of the firepower of this magnificent tower, I feel, but not the end of the world ultimately. Spam now coming through through the lanes over on the left-hand side. Thor marching forward in the middle of the map. Eager to blast down whatever it can. Eventually. Thor is very powerful, but very slow, and you can easily over-micro them by turning them around like this. Because their cannon takes such a long time to realign, it means that you really can't run out of angle pretty quickly. There it goes, that experimental Terminator tank blasting away at whatever it can. The natural predator to the Razorback here, so it's a good matchup for the green tank against this Razorback in maroon here. Room temperature IQ. Whoa, the EMP missile almost connecting with the Razorback there. Very, very close call, but between the Starlights and the Thunder Cannon, eventually all that will be cleaned up quite efficiently. Yeah. Starlight Thor, a very, very powerful wombo combo of a unit comp. Razorback's available on the front line here now for Loudy. Did we go for a forward T3? We sure did, yeah. T3 rolling off the... Oh, no, that's a T2. Wait, where's our T3 production? Looks like we don't actually have any. So we're producing out of the back line here and then just producing units from the front. Kind of a cool move, actually. Yeah, we've got a whole forward T1 facility, and then we've got the eco growing in the back, kind of separating the two just in case there should be some sort of cataclysmic event. Not a bad idea. Thor's firing away again, those EMP missiles, lovely stuff. Anything you can paralyze is basically worth it. It's free units knocked off the field. Razorback's not going to cut it against Thors. They're just too tanky and they do too much damage. They can blast down Razorbacks too efficiently. Yeah. Thor's being a little over-microed here, I feel. Not that it matters when there's effectively no counter to them. The reason, of course, why commanders are so powerful, especially into the late game. These two Thors so slow that a single commander might have been able to dig on them, but without a commander in order to intercept them, they've made their way directly into the base right here of the brown commander. Shortly finding their way into the base of the red commander, who does have a plasma shield, but as we all know, plasma shield's quite ineffective against the lightning cannons mounted atop those Thors. One shot, two shot, red shot, and blue shot. There go the Thors, blasting down the aphises, and boom goes the base. Beautifully done. One of the Thors goes down in the explosion, but another one still remains standing, opening up an opportunity for the Razorbacks to march forward here, as well as all of the grunt spam known to Cortex Kai. And at long last, despite winning the canyon lane back, the red team crumbles under the weight of the blue. What a back and forth right there in the middle of the map. I really have to say that APHIS reclaim, or that, that Commander reclaim right there had me rooting for the red team that they were going to manage to pull back into this. But eventually, overwhelming control over the middle of the map eventually scaled into an overwhelming economic advantage. And it's all told right here in the graphs, where you can see two of these players taking over exponentially and climbing their team to victory. What a beautiful match of Beyond All Reason. Let me know how you felt about it down below in the comment section. Let me know what you think about all that glitters. Are you getting tired of this map? Are you ready for a rotation lobby? Always happy to hear what you guys have to say. And I hope you have a great rest of your day. And I will see you in the very next game of Beyond All Reason.